My name is Dr. Evelyn Hartwell. If you really want to understand what turns women on, you have to look past the cliches in movies and the random advice you see online. The real answers are in her mind, how she feels, what she imagines, and what her fantasies mean to her. Women's fantasies reveal something important about desire that many men overlook. When you understand the psychology behind them, you're better able to connect with her in a deeper, more meaningful way, not by acting out every fantasy, but by understanding why they exist in the first place. Everyone has fantasies. That's simply part of being human. We all imagine things, daydream, and let our minds wander. Sometimes those thoughts are romantic, exciting, adventurous, or completely unexpected. Having fantasies doesn't make someone strange or too much. It simply means they have an active mind and a healthy imagination. Just like people fantasize about success, travel, or achieving big goals, sexual fantasies exist in the same mental space. They're a way of exploring feelings, curiosity, and emotion without necessarily doing anything in real life. But having fantasies doesn't mean every fantasy should be acted on. Some thoughts are better left as thoughts. Once something becomes real, it comes with consequences, emotions, and results that you can't take back. If you're in a relationship, turning every fantasy into reality can change the dynamic between you and your partner in ways you didn't intend. That's why understanding the fantasy is often more important than trying to live it out. One of the most common fantasies many women have involves being dominated by their partner. In her imagination, she gives up control and lets him take the lead. He is confident, strong, and decisive, guiding every moment while she allows herself to surrender and stop overthinking. It's not about cruelty or disrespect, it's about relief. In everyday life, many women carry responsibility, stress, expectations, and pressure to be in control. The fantasy of submission is often about finally letting go of that weight in a safe space with someone she deeply trusts. Too many men misunderstand this. They think dominance means aggression or harsh behavior, when in reality, it's about emotional safety, confidence, and presence. What most women want in that fantasy is to feel protected while they stop managing everything for once. They want someone who takes initiative, leads with care, and makes them feel held, physically and emotionally. It's the psychological release of surrendering control in a trusted environment, not real-life mistreatment. Another very common fantasy involves intimacy in forbidden or risky places. The idea of being together somewhere they shouldn't be brings a rush of adrenaline, like doing something thrilling and secret. It may be a party, a secluded corner, or any place where there's a small risk of being discovered. But what matters isn't the location itself. It's the emotion behind it, the excitement, the racing heart, the feeling of adventure and urgency. This doesn't mean it's wise to actually act on these scenarios. In real life, these situations can involve safety issues, embarrassment, or legal trouble, which simply isn't worth it. What matters is recognizing that the fantasy represents a craving for excitement and spontaneity. You can bring playfulness, surprises, and novelty into a relationship in much safer and more respectful ways without crossing boundaries or taking unnecessary risks. Another widespread fantasy is the idea of a threesome. On the surface, it sounds like it's about multiple partners, but deeper than that, it often reflects a desire to feel deeply seen and desired. In the fantasy, she may imagine being the center of attention, admired intensely, and wanted by more than one person at the same time. It's about validation, desirability, and feeling irresistible. In reality, however, bringing a third person into a relationship can easily become complicated and painful. Feelings change, attachments happen, jealousy can appear, and the dynamic rarely goes back to what it was before. That's why, for many couples, this fantasy is better left as imagination rather than reality. You can still meet the emotional need behind it by making her feel valued, desired, and prioritized without ever involving someone else. Some women also fantasize about intimacy with another woman. This may come from curiosity, the softness they associate with women, or simply wondering what it would be like. Women often feel understood by other women and may imagine that emotional comfort combined with attraction. This fantasy doesn't always reflect sexual orientation. It can simply be curiosity or the desire to be explored gently and attentively. But again, reality comes with consequences. Acting on something you're unsure about can create confusion, guilt, or relationship complications. So this is another example of a fantasy that can simply stay in the mind rather than becoming an event that affects real life. Adults have the freedom to make choices, but it's important to think beyond the moment and consider long-term emotional impact. Another powerful fantasy involves a stranger, someone completely unknown, with no emotional strings, history, or future expectations. The appeal here lies in anonymity and freedom. There's no judgment, no reputation, no expectations. Whatever happens stays in that moment and disappears. It's about being completely uninhibited and unapologetically expressive without worrying how someone will see you afterward. But again, reality is different. Acting impulsively can bring risks, physical, emotional, and relational. Life can feel short in moments of desire, but it can also be long enough for consequences to linger. One decision can have long-lasting effects. So maturity means recognizing the line between imagination and wise action. The biggest message in all of this is simple. Fantasies don't have to become real to matter. They tell you something about longing, emotion, curiosity, or stress release. They can be a window into what a person wants to feel: safe, desired, free, adventurous, cared for, or released from responsibility. When partners understand each other's inner worlds, intimacy deepens. It stops being just physical and becomes emotional and psychological, too. For men, the lesson isn't to imitate every fantasy. It's to listen without judgment, create emotional safety, communicate openly, and recognize the deeper meaning behind what she imagines. Confidence, presence, respect, trust, and emotional connection are what most of these fantasies truly revolve around. When a woman feels emotionally secure, understood, and appreciated, desire naturally strengthens. At the same time, women benefit from understanding that their fantasies are normal. There's nothing strange or wrong about having an imagination. Fantasies don't define your character, and they don't automatically require action. They can simply exist as thoughts that add color to your inner world. Before turning any fantasy into reality, it's important to think about consent, safety, emotional readiness, and potential consequences for yourself and your partner. Communication matters. Respect matters. Trust matters more than anything. A strong relationship isn't defined by how wild your actions are, but by how deeply you care for one another. Now, let's expand on the deeper psychological aspects behind these fantasies. Many women's fantasies are closely tied to emotions rather than visuals. Where men may focus on imagery, women often focus on context, meaning, connection, and story. They imagine how they feel: wanted, chosen, overwhelmed with passion, protected, or free from expectation. This emotional layer is why things like dominance, attention, risk, and mystery show up so often. They're symbolic, not literal. Dominance symbolizes security and leadership. Risk reflects excitement and escape from routine. Strangers represent freedom from judgment. Multiple partners symbolize intense desirability. Same-sex fantasies may symbolize curiosity, comfort, or self-understanding. When viewed this way, fantasies make much more sense. They're emotional messages more than literal instructions. Understanding this can transform relationships. Instead of arguing about why she thought that, partners can ask what the feeling behind the fantasy represents. Often, it points toward needs like appreciation, novelty, passion, playfulness, safety, or validation. Meeting those needs in healthy, respectful ways strengthens the bond between partners without ever stepping into situations that could cause regret. In the end, emotional maturity means knowing the difference between imagination and reality and choosing wisely. You only live once, yes, but you also live with your choices. The goal isn't to suppress fantasies or to chase every impulse. It's to understand yourself and your partner more deeply, grow emotionally, and build stronger connections built on trust, consent, communication, and care. If this topic opened your eyes or made you think differently, reflect on which ideas surprised you and which ones made sense. How you use this understanding in your relationship matters more than the fantasies themselves. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep taking care of yourself and the people you love.